निकटे अद्वैतशीनि वास छत्रधारा বসে আছে গৌরাচার রত্ন সিংহাসনে আরতি করে না ব্রহ্মা आदिदेव गाणे जीवनर हरि आदि कोरी चामर ढुलाया संजय मुकुंद वासु घोष आदि गाया शिव शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताल मधुरा मृदंग बाजे परमरसाला शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे 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 हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर कि बहु कोटि चंद्र जीने पदानायुज्वाला काल देश वनमाला তোর ঝালমালা Shiva Shiva Shuka Narada Preme Gada Gada Bhakti Vinoda Dekhe Gaurara Sampada Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namah Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe Radha Jaya Nitai Sachinandana Nitai Sachinandana Nitai Sachinandana Gaura Hari Jaya 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 Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai
His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Paramahamsa Parivitagacharya Astatara Satasi Simad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Nitai Sachi Sutta ki Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundara ki Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Sing national prayers, right? Yeah.
Namaste Narasingaya. Hiranya Kashi Bhaksha Shilaktam Kanakalaye Yatona Stingo Paratona Stingo Yata Yamin the Tona Stingo Vahena Stingo Hridayena Singho Nara Singamadim Shadanam Prabhadhe Nara Singamadim Shadanam Prabhadhe Tavakara Kamala Pade Nakam Adbhuta Singham Dalita Hiranyakashipo Tanapingam Keshavadisa Narahade Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Adbhuta Singham Dalitam Hiranyakashipo Tanapingam Keshavadita Narahare Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Tavakara Kamala Pade Nakam Adbhuta Singham Dalita Hiranyakashipo Tanapingam Keshavadita Narahare Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Hare Nakam Adbhuta Singham Dalita Hiranyakashipo Tanapingam Keshavadita Narahare Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Jaya Nrsingadev 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 Jaya Nrsingadev Jaya Nada Hare, Nada Hare, Nada Hare, Jaya Nada Hare. Nrsimha Bhagavan ki Bhakta Prahlad Maharaj ki Gaur Premanandi.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome all of you to the Sunday program. Is anyone visiting first time today? Please raise your hand if this is your first program. What's your name? Mridula from?
San Francisco.
From San Francisco. Hare Krishna. Let's welcome Mridula. Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Raktaka Das from Boston, now in New Jersey. Hare Krishna. Hariba. Yes. Anjana Mehta, where are you from? Montville? Okay, let's welcome Anjana Mehta as well. So thank you all for coming. And I know there's quite a few devotees from CNJ who have come. We welcome them also with a loud Haribo. So today's Sunday program, we don't have any sponsor. If anybody would like to sponsor Sunday program, it's $200 only. You can let me know. And okay. Okay, you, Vijay Babu. Okay, Vijay Babu and Lakha Mataji would like to sponsor. Okay, Mridula. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. And okay. Okay, and Dhirendra Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. We have some special sweets for you. If you can please come forward and collect it. Mahaprasad. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. So some of our upcoming programs, our next big program is Narsimha Chaturdashi, which is also on Sunday, May 15th. And we're celebrating in a big way, so we'll be sending out the flyers soon. This coming Tuesday, the 3rd of May, is a very, very auspicious day. It's Akshaya Tritiya. And that is a very, very auspicious day to do more Krishna conscious activities. I would encourage all the devotees to join the morning japa call. There is no muhurata you need to look for this day. If there is anything you need to purchase or do any good karya or any good deed, this is the day where you should be doing. You don't need to worry about how is the time and all. So I encourage that you all join the japa call, which is every morning, 6 o'clock. And also, if you would like to, this is a good day to invite Vaishnavas at home and visit Vaishnavas. You need to be invited, of course. But even as a atithi, as an uninvited guest, you go, it's very much welcome. And it's also a good day, if you can't do anything, to make any contributions, any donations. This is the day to do. But most important is chanting more rounds, reading Krishna Katha and remembering Krishna. So we are very, very happy today that with us we have His Holiness Romapada Swami Maharaj. For the benefit of those who do not know Maharaj, he joined the movement, Hare Krishna movement, at a very young age when he was studying in university. He was a medical student, and that's when he met the Hare Krishnas, and he never looked back. He joined the movement. Maharaj has inspired thousands of people, youth, especially, and he travels all over the world preaching this message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Bhagavad Gita all over the world. We are very, very fortunate that we have him with us today. So I request you all to please give your full attention, turn off your cell phones or put it in vibrate mode. And if children get a little uncomfortable, you can take them outside in the lobby. So let us welcome Maharaj with 3 loud Haribols. Hare Krishna.
Probably you could see the screen better if some of the lights in the front go down, if somebody knows how to do that. Hare Krishna. The topic I was requested to speak about was any pastime of Krishna and some lesson. So that was a really easy assignment. It's just, so immediately I thought of this story. This is, not, of course, Krishna not in Vrindavan, and it's Krishna not in Dwarka either. It's Krishna in Mathura. The same places that Krishna performs his pastimes in this world, there are those same places in Goloka Vrindavan. Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. And the intimacy in Vrindavan is super excellent. Yet the intimacy with Krishna and his devotees outside of Vrindavan are also most wonderful. And the story with Mucukunda takes place, well, the exchange with Mucukunda takes place in Mathura, or near Mathura. So it's chapter 51, and this will start with the lesson, and we'll circle back around to the lesson. When Gargamuni was young, when Mucukunda was young, he had an opportunity to interact with Gargamuni. We know Gargamuni for many things, but most outstanding perhaps is he did the horoscope, the birth ceremony, the name-giving ceremony for Krishna and Balaram. He did that because it was known that he was a super astrologer and had a deep sense of vision of everything. He was a very valued member of the Yadu dynasty. And because Nanda Maharaj was part of the Yadu dynasty, he wasn't in Mathura, in the ruling place, he was in the agricultural place. There's some history of how that came about.
Sunday school's running upstairs.
Pitter patter. A herd of elephants upstairs. Okay. Gargamuni, Mucukunda was not in the same line. Mucukunda was in the Surya dynasty, and the Vrishnis were in the Chandra dynasty. But because he was a king, he had the opportunity to have Gargamuni read his horoscope. And by association with Gargamuni, he received the seed of bhakti. In the horoscope reading, Mucukunda was told, the day will come when you will see the personality of Godhead face to face. And from that seed of bhakti, plus whatever of the other things that they said in relation to the personality of Godhead, he had become very convinced, because of his faith in Gargamuni, that day will come. So he was living his day, and day by day, with the anticipation, when will that day come? That I'll have the opportunity to see face to face the personality of Godhead. That was his spiritual meditation, along with all of the other things that he did. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's this teaching: the root cause of devotional service to Lord Krishna is association with advanced devotees. Even when one's dormant love for Krishna awakens, association with devotees is still most essential. The seed comes from, like with every one of us, the seed comes from one who is carrying bhakti, and it awakens. Now specifically, sadhu sangha, advanced devotees, those who are actually absorbed in devotional life. And Garga Muni was such a person. It'd be nice to elaborate on how that was so, but he received it. And his thoughts were always with Krishna, although he had never seen him. I mean, that happens sometimes. We're not so elevated. We hear about Krishna and we do so many other things mindlessly. But Rukmini, she just heard about Krishna. She heard about Krishna. We've heard about Krishna. She heard about Krishna from Narada, and that was it. She gave her everything to Krishna just from hearing. There's so many other personalities just by hearing about the Supreme Lord. So Mucukunda was a very advanced person spiritually, and he was materially also very, very qualified. We'll hear. The scene, I want to describe a little bit. The scene of Krishna and Mucukunda meeting comes at the end of Krishna's stay in Mathura. Does anybody here know how many years Krishna remained in Mathura? I researched, and I asked a lot of scholarly devotees, and I couldn't get a clear answer. But it appears that it was around 25 years, which is a long time, because consider how much we know about Krishna's childhood pastimes. We know a lot about Krishna's childhood pastimes. And we also know from our acharyas how long he remained in Vrindavan. Very, very clear. 11 years, 7 months. And then when he was of that age, that's when Akrura took him to Mathura, and things in Mathura started to happen. He received his Upanayana from Garga Muni at the same age that boys in Kshatriya families commonly receive their sacred thread. He was 11. And then he went to Sandipani Muni school for 2 months. He learned everything, came back. And then he did many other things. He went again, as he promised he would. He met with Akrura. There's a whole chapter describing that. There's a whole chapter describing his interaction with Kubja, because he promised to satisfy her. But that's just a short period of time. In the course of this exchange, there were 17 attacks by Jarasandha with massive armies. So it seems that it's around 25 years, those 17 attacks by Jarasandha. It's connected to Mucukunda, because attack number 18 was coming from another place too, simultaneous attack, Kalyavana. So let's go back, and the relationship between Jarasandha and Jarasandha's enmity towards Krishna. The enmity toward Krishna began when Krishna killed Kamsa, because Kamsa had 2 daughters, and these 2 daughters named were Asti and Prapti. And when Krishna killed Jarasandha, when Krishna killed Kamsa, the daughters now were without a husband. They went back and said, "Daddy, take revenge." So he took a vow that he would not only kill Krishna, he would annihilate the entire Yadu dynasty. And Jarasandha was very powerful. Here's a little history of how not only his 2 daughters became Kamsa's wives, but how Kuvalyapita came in the custody or the care of Kamsa. It's very interesting history. Simultaneously, so now this means Kamsa was a little younger because the daughters were married to Kamsa, and Jarasandha was a little older. But they were both powerful, very, very powerful Kshatriyas. They were on tour. Jarasandha was on tour, conquering here and there. In the course of his conquering, he had this massive, gigantic, bigger than many elephants together, Kuvalyapita. And Kuvalyapita, in the evening time, they had him chained with all four legs and big spikes in the ground so that he couldn't get away. And then the next day they would take him here and there. Simultaneously, there was, Kamsa was also touring. In Garga Samhita, there's no thank you. In Garga Samhita, there's a very detailed description of Kamsa's exploits, of how he gathered together so many other kings. And it's in Gopal Champu also. He would go doing combat with powerful kings, annihilate their army and leave them standing, and give them the choice. You either submit to me or I'll kill you. That was his program. And many people submitted. Sometimes people fought him. But, so he had powerful king. He was very powerful. All those people that were his assistants, that they were sent to kill Krishna, they were powerful, mystical warriors. So, on one occasion, Kuvalyapita broke loose. He pulled those chains and the stakes in the ground and went running. And he went running to a place where Kamsa was performing some meditation. And Kuvalyapita interrupted his meditation. So Kamsa bashed him and smashed him and picked him up and whirled him around and threw him hundreds of miles, or many miles, some number of miles, yojanas, came crashing down in Jarasandha's camp. And Jarasandha said, wow, that was really good. Whoever did that, let's find out who flipped Kuvalyapita in the air and threw him at such a distance. So he went in the direction from which Kuvalyapita was flying, and he found Kamsa. And he said, let's be allies. You please marry my daughter, and you keep as a gift Kuvalyapita. He's in your care, and my daughters are in your care. So they made a friendship instead of fighting each other. It's one or the other. So Kuvalyapita was then in Kamsa's care, as were his daughters, Jarasandha's daughters. And Kuvalyapita was sometimes used in battle and so many things. Very, very big, very, very powerful. So when Akrura was sent to bring Krishna to have him killed in Mathura, one of the plans was Kuvalyapita would be the first to try to crush him. And I learned something last 2 weeks. When an elephant is in the stage of the year where a male elephant is mad for mating, there's a material, a substance that oozes from both sides of their temples. It's called mada. It means mad. That's one of the meanings. But it's a sap or some kind of liquidy thing that spreads down the side of their temple, left side and right side. It's mentioned specifically in one of Rupa Goswami's Padyavali prayers, toward the very beginning. And he was in, the English phrase is he was in rut. He was in this mating mood, and that's when Krishna came. And so the elephant trainers sent him charging at Krishna. Of course, Balaram was also there. And there's details and details of the battle that took place. There's many nice paintings. You'll see some of them, ISKCON paintings. And he tried to trample Krishna, and Krishna grabbed him by the trunk and threw him to the ground. And then he got up and tried to charge Krishna again. Krishna threw him to the ground again and broke off his tusk and smashed him over the head with the tusk. Here it shows Balaram with the other tusk, but Krishna smashed him. And Kalyavana was finished. And after Kalyavana was finished, then Krishna went together with Balaram, carrying over one shoulder, Balaram over his shoulder, the two tusks of Kalyavana, bloodied on one end. And they went into the wrestling arena, and there was a big wrestling match between Chandra and Mushtaka and Krishna and Balaram. And the back side, you see on the left, that's the three brothers of Chandra and Mushtaka. Looking up on the upper right side, that's Kamsa, who is very interested in seeing Krishna being defeated by his two powerful wrestlers. But we know who won. And there's the three brothers hollering, the people in the audience in the back, and beads of perspiration coming down the side of his head. Krishna finished him. The three brothers came onto the stage, and Krishna and Balaram finished them, and that left Kamsa. And a nice description. Krishna was glancing at Kamsa like a lusty boy. He really wanted to finish Kamsa. So he jumped up on the dais, or the seat, the throne, grabbed him by the hair, dragged him off the throne, smashed him with one punch. This powerful ruler that was defeating powerful other rulers and kings and generals. One punch, Krishna finished him. Look over there is Balaram nonchalantly enjoying the fun. Some of their cowherd boyfriends enjoying the fun, and Kamsa not enjoying the fun. But in the liberation of Kamsa, Krishna wanted to demonstrate to everybody that he wasn't just like knocked out, but he was dead. So Krishna grabbed him by the hair and dragged him here and there. And everyone is celebrating. Wicked Kamsa is dead. And then what did Krishna do? He went and freed his mother and father from the prison of Kamsa. They embraced him, many nice exchanges. He saw to the re-establishing on the throne King Ugrasena. There we see Krishna and Balaram on the left. And apparently Gargamuni, although Gargamuni was probably much older than this, putting the crown upon his head, and the ceremonies were rendered. Ugrasena is now the king. Meanwhile, the two sisters went back and told their father what happened. If it continues, you know what to do, right? Okay. So, who's Jarasandha anyways? Jarasandha, there's a nice history, interesting history. There was a king of Magadha, who was Jarasandha's father, because he was the king of Magadha. Brihadrath had no children, and so he very much wanted to have a son. And so he married the two daughters of the king of Kashi. But after some time, there was no children. So he went into the forest. He met a rishi, Chandra Kaushika Rishi, and made an appeal to the rishi to help him make some arrangements so he could have a son. Brihadrath gave him a mango, one, and said, give this mango to your co-wives, and they will bear a child. Well, he gave the mango to his co-wives so that they would bear a child, and sure enough, they bore half a child each. And the king didn't know what to do. So he took the two halves of the two children that were born, or the child that was born, and placed them in the forest. And lo and behold, a she-demon named Jara found the two halves. And she was ready to eat them, but she decided instead, let me put them together and see what happens. And she put them together, and it was a normal child. She was very surprised. So she found out that they were the two halves of the son of Brihadrath, and requested the king to raise the child, but to name the child after her. So he was very happy and gave the name Jara Sandha. The two halves put together making Jarasandha. And that's the method by which Jarasandha was defeated. You know the story. The big battle with Bhima, and days, and it went on non-stop, and Krishna took a piece of twig and split it in two. Bhima understood, split him in two, so he split him in two. And Jarasandha was finished. But before Jarasandha was finished, he had these two daughters, Asti and Prapti, and when they were married to Kamsa, they became widows, and they wanted revenge. So Jarasandha took his oath that he would take revenge. And the Bhagavatam describes, he gathered together 13 Akshohini divisions of soldiers. So what's an Akshohini? It's in the commentary by our acharyas. Here's one of 13. 21,870 chariots, 21,870 elephants, 109,350 infantry, I don't know how those numbers are figured out, and 65,610 cavalry men on horses. So a lot of people on foot, a lot of people on horses, a lot of people on elephants, a lot of them on chariots, and off he went with 13 of those to have a big battle to destroy the entire Yadu dynasty and Krishna in particular. So it was a big challenge. So what did Krishna do? He laughed. He said, you can just stay inside the palace walls. I'll go out and take care of this myself. And sure enough, just riding on his chariot, every single soldier finished by Krishna and his powerful bow and arrows, except for one person, Jarasandha. Standing alone at a battlefield strewn with dead bodies, 13 Akshohini divisions of soldiers, and smiled and said, you can go home now. So when he was going home, he was feeling defeated. And, for one who has once been honored, dishonor is worse than death, right? So he was thinking, I should give up my life. I've been humiliated by one man who I was going to go and smash. But when he got back to his kingdom of Magadha, the ministers persuaded him, no, it's just one of those things. You weren't ready, and da-da-da-da. You're so powerful, who can stop you? Gather another army and go back and try again. Yes, I'm going to go back. I was caught by surprise. So he gathered another more than 13 Akshohinis the next time, and off he went for a big, big battle. And each time, the same thing happened. Krishna thought, this is really a good plan. I came into this world to annihilate all the miscreants, and he's bringing them to me. It's a nice program. So he carried on for a number of years, something like 25 years, and 17 times. Same thing happened, and he sent him home. You can go home now. So something happened on the 18th time. And the 18th time, that doesn't say specifically how it came to his attention, but in the North Country, somewhere probably in the region of Afghanistan or someplace like that, there was another king, Kalyavana. And Kalyavana, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur describes the history of Kalyavana. You want to hear the history of Kalyavana? I'd like to tell you. It's nice. Garga Muni had a son. He had more than one son, but he had one of his sons, because one of his sons was a priest of Nanda Maharaj. But there was another son named Gargya, the son of Garga Muni. And in Mathura, his son was ridiculed by the Yadavas. They were ridiculing him as a eunuch, and he took big offense. They were laughing at him, and as far as he was concerned, vilifying him. So he became furious. So he went to the southern part of India, and he underwent severe austerities. What was the severe austerities? For 12 years, his only food was the powder of iron. Yummy, huh? I mean, sawdust would be better. Powder of iron for 12 years, every day. Lord Shiva became very pleased and appeared before him and said, what would you like? So he asked for a son that would bring terror to the Yadavas. Didn't say kill them. And so the arrangement was Gargya, given that benediction by Shiva, later was called by a Yavana king who also had no son, and he requested, because he heard about this benediction of Lord Shiva, he asked Gargya to produce a son in his queen. So Gargya was the father. Kalyavana's father was, doesn't give his name, produced the son. And after some time, as Kalyavana grew stronger and stronger and more mature, he could find nobody who was a combatant sufficient to make it a worthy challenge for him, who would visit his kingdom, the Yavana kingdom, but Narada Muni. Narada Muni did some funny things. So he visited the Yavana kingdom, and the Yavana king, Kalyavana, asked, who is a suitable candidate for me? Who is the most powerful warrior on the face of earth? And he said that in Yadu dynasty, they're the most powerful warriors. So he immediately set off to go attack Mathura. Now, the benediction given by Lord Shiva was met. He didn't say a son who would kill Krishna. He wanted a son who would bring difficulty. And Lord Shiva gave a benediction that would fulfill his desire, but also fulfill the purpose of Krishna, which was the deliverance of Mucukunda, which is our chapter 51 topic. So, from the east, from Magadha, that's where the direction towards Mathura, where Jarasandha was coming, and Kalyavana was coming from the north. And Kalyavana had many. It doesn't give the number. Oh yeah, 3 million. 3 million. That's a lot of soldiers. That's much bigger than all those Akshohinis. 3 million Yavana soldiers. And Yavanas are powerful warriors. So here's Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Oh, I just narrated all of this to you. Vishnu Purana gives this account. The Garga Samhita gives the same account. Here's Brihat Bhagavatamrita describing this. Because Gargya and others were inimical to the Yadavas and the Pandavas, who were staunch Vaishnavas, Lord Shiva rewarded their worship with imperfect boons. According to Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, Gargya Balaki was a learned son of Garga, who was too proud of his acquired knowledge. By Lord Shiva's blessings, Gargya obtained a son, but not one who would destroy the Yadu dynasty as Gargya had wanted, but only one who would frighten and frustrate the Yadus. So this is the time when from the north comes Kalyavana, and from the east comes Jarasandha with their massive armies. So Krishna turned to Balaram and said, I'm concerned about the members of the Yadu dynasty for their safety. There may be some harm that will come to them. So you stay here and hold them off. And I'm going to make an arrangement for all the Yadu dynasty members to go to another place. I'm going to take them to Dwarka. So he did it really fast. The whole city of Dwarka was built. He transferred everybody to their residential quarters in Dwarka, settled them, and came back. Doesn't say how long it took, but it was really fast. Dwarka was massive. But Krishna's powers are without limit, right? And he came back. And when he came back, he was moving about the battlefield on foot. And Kalyavana hadn't seen Krishna, just like Mucukunda hadn't seen Krishna, but he heard about Krishna. And when he saw him walking or running across the battlefield, he said, that must be him. And so he started running after him. And you know what Krishna did, right? Krishna ran not too fast, just enough to be out of the reach of Kalyavana. Just enough. And Kalyavana was hurling insults. Stop, you coward. Krishna would look over his shoulder and run a little faster. And Kalyavana run a little faster, and Krishna run a little. So they went some distance to a place where Mucukunda was in a cave. Now, why was Mucukunda in a cave? Many of you know the answer, but it's a very nice description. Mucukunda, although he was a resident of earth, he was so powerful that something like what happened with Dasarath, who was sometimes invited to assist the demigods in battles against the demons. Kalyavana was such a Mucukunda was such a powerful warrior that he was engaged in battle to help the demigods prevail over the demons. And it was fighting day and night for a long time. Finally, Kartikeya came. So they said, okay, Kartikeya can take the lead of the military. we're so indebted to you. Just tell us whatever the benediction is that you would like, and it's yours. And he said, I just want to sleep. I'm really tired. And if anybody wakes me while I'm sleeping, they'll burn into fire. My fire will come from my eyes and they'll burn immediately into ashes. The commentary says he asked for that because he didn't want the demigods to come and bother him again. He was really tired. And so he went to this cave. Now, where's that cave? Does anybody know where that cave is? Dinabandhu, everybody that's been around for a while knows who Dinabandhu is. It's in Rajasthan. Some distance, not too far, not too close, but some distance. So Krishna ran and ran and ran to this cave. It's a celebrated place. I have photographs of the place, but it's not in this presentation. And Krishna went inside the cave. And when Kalyavana, when chasing Krishna inside the cave, he thought, he's afraid of me because I'm this powerful Kalyavana. When he went inside the cave, he saw someone sleeping. Thought he's tired out. He's lying on the cave, sleeping. So he went and kicked him. But it wasn't Krishna. It was Mucukunda, because he was sleeping. And Mucukunda had this benediction that when somebody wakes me, from my eyes will come fire, and instantly the body of that person that wakes me will die. So Kalyavana was a pile of ashes. Powerful, invincible Kalyavana. As you see in the painting, there's the inside of the cave, and in the back, there's Krishna. And do you have Srimad Bhagavatam here? Do you have a copy of Canto 10, Chapter 51? Yes? Maybe? It's where? Okay, find it. I want to read. I wasn't thinking ahead. I want to read. There's some passages. Here's another BBT painting, because you can see. What? I can hear 10 voices, just you. Okay, but don't stop. I'd rather have the book, but wait till we get. If he comes back in time with the book, that's great. If not, we'll do the database. You have it on the phone. You got it. Can you bring it over? Bless your heart. But I have to tell you what verse.
Okay.
Here's text, starting with text 36. 10, 51, 36. Okay? 36.
Oh.
36. Okay. So there we see this nice BBT painting. On the left side, that's Krishna. Notice he has 4 arms because he's in Mathura, with the symbols of Vishnu in his hand. There's Kalyavana being burned by the fire coming from, thank you very much. Okay. Coming from Mucukunda's eyes. And here's a little description of Mucukunda's qualification. In commentary, it's described, he was very devoted to supporting brahmanas. He was true to his vow. He was very selfless. He gave up his unrivaled kingdom and his personal desires to fight along with the demigods. He was known as being very wise, and he was very humble. And he had this benediction that he would see Krishna, and sure enough, he saw Krishna. Now, how does one become determined in devotional life. There's something on the receiving end, and there's something on the desire end. So when you have association of very elevated persons, you have the opportunity to become advanced. We also have so much opportunity. I was sharing just the other day this nice story, Prabhupada describing his humility. Actually, it was this afternoon. Prabhupada's humility was that he was not qualified. Because one who is qualified feels not qualified, which sounds like a contradiction, but it's natural. It's a natural kind of humility. So Prabhupada this is one morning in Henry Street Temple. Prabhupada was saying in humble way, I was loitering in a dark place, and my spiritual master found me. And he forced my eyes open with the torchlight of knowledge. And he made me fortunate. His voice was choking as he was describing this. He was very moved. And then my spiritual master told me, as I have made you fortunate, you go forward and make others fortunate. His voice was choking. And so I have come. Jai Prabhupada. And I met all of you. And you were loitering in some dark place. And I've given you knowledge, and I've made your lives fortunate. Jai Prabhupada. And now I'm giving you the same instruction. Receive this good fortune, go forward and make others fortunate. The room just went nuts. The drums beating and people bouncing off the walls and ceiling. And there was an instruction, just like Prabhupada was given the instruction. Go to the Western countries. And how long did he carry that? And what difficulty, what obstacles were there for him to fulfill that? Whew. Read Lilamrita and you'll know what those obstacles were. You got it. Nice going. This is better than this. Could I have chapter 51, text 36? The request was to tell a pastime of Krishna with some lesson. So I'm repeating the lesson. The lesson is, yeah, thank you. Leave it, just in case. Seek association of a pure devotee. And in case you don't know who is one, Srila Prabhupada is one. And he makes himself available in his books. So read his books, and you'll get sadhu sangha just by reading Prabhupada's books. And if you're not yet reading them, please read them. And if you have them in your home, make sure you read them. And you can do it in any which way you like. Reading groups is very popular, but read them and discuss them in the association of other devotees. And you'll receive the same benediction. At least the opportunity, if your heart is open, enthusiastic to reach the goal. The potency is there, coming from Prabhupada's books. And that's what this story, the lesson this story is narrating. Gargamuni indicated that when you meet Krishna, you will achieve the fulfillment and purpose of life, because only Krishna can give that perfection. Krishna gives liberation. So, there's another painting. There's Kalyavana getting cindered. And there's an exchange between the two. Kalyavana, Mucukunda wants to know, who are you? Because he sees this effulgent personality situated in the cave. And there's the pile of ashes that used to be Kalyavana. Who are you? Here's Krishna's response. My dear friend, I have taken thousands of births lived thousands of lives, and accepted thousands of names. In fact, my births, activities, and names are limitless, and thus even I cannot count them. After many lifetimes, someone might count the dust particles on the earth, but no one can ever finish counting my qualities, activities, names, and births. O King, the greatest sages enumerate my births and activities, which take place throughout the 3 phases of time, but never do they reach an end to them. Nevertheless, O friend, I will tell you about my current birth, name, and activities. Kindly hear. Some time ago, Lord Brahma requested me to protect religious principles and destroy the demons who were burdening the earth. Thus, I descended in the Yadu dynasty in the home of Anakundundubi, which is a name of Vasudeva. Anakundundubi means he was perfectly virtuous. So as he was born, there were sounds of trumpets and musical instruments, Anakundundubi. Indeed, because I am the son of Vasudeva, people call me Vasudeva. I have killed Kalanemi, reborn as Kamsa, as well as Pralamba and other enemies of the pious. And now, O King, this barbarian has been burnt to ashes by your piercing glance. Since in the past you repeatedly prayed to me, I have personally come to this cave to show you mercy, for I am affectionately inclined to my devotees. What a beautiful way to reveal who he is. Now, choose some benedictions, plural, from me, O saintly king. First it was, O friend. Now it's, O saintly king. I will fulfill all your desires. One who has satisfied me need never again lament. Whew. So here's the exchange as they're introducing one another. Of course, Krishna knows who Mucukunda is. And Mucukunda, now the light goes on. This is that person who Gargamuni said, one day I will see, and by seeing him, I will achieve perfection. So here's his response. I'm going to go advance a little bit. After their discussion, Krishna says some key things. He says to Mucukunda, there's some service for you in your next lifetime. For this lifetime, in your role as king, you killed many animals. You have to undergo some austerity to purify yourself for having killed those animals in the course of hunting and for qualifying yourself as a king. So you go do that. And in your next life, you'll become an elevated person. You'll assist me in my pastimes, and then you go back to Godhead. It doesn't say what that service was. It's like a little detour, but that's another chapter of Krishna's pastimes. So Mucukunda wanted to know who was standing before him. Krishna responded. Now Mucukunda is going to offer some very beautiful prayers, which I'm going to read. And especially, it's the starting point is humility. When good fortune comes your way, it helps to recognize with some regret how I've misused my life up to this point. Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls this a kind of tapa for a Vaishnav. Back there is not just impure reminiscence, it's regret. I was like Narottam Das Thakur. I lived my life knowingly drinking poison, neglecting the worship of Radha Krishna. That's Narottam's words. Let's hear what Mukunda's words are. Mucukunda bowed down to the Lord when he heard this. Remembering the words of the sage Garga, he joyfully recognized Krishna as the Supreme Lord Narayana. The king then addressed him as follows. Shri Mucukunda said, O Lord, the people of this world, both men and women, are bewildered by your illusory energy. Unaware of their benefit, they do not worship you, but instead seek happiness by entangling themselves in family affairs which are actually sources of misery. That person has an impure mind who, despite having somehow or other automatically obtained the rare and highly evolved human form of life, does not worship your lotus feet. Like an animal that has fallen into a blind well, such a person has fallen into the darkness of a material home. Humility, expressions of humility and regret. I have wasted all this time, O unconquerable one, becoming more and more intoxicated by my domain and opulence as an earthly king. Misidentifying the mortal body as the self, becoming attached to children, wives, treasury, and land, I suffered endless anxiety. With deep arrogance, I took myself to be the body, which is a material object like a pot or a wall, thinking myself a god among men. I traveled the earth surrounded by my charioteers, elephants, cavalry, foot soldiers, and generals, disregarding you in my deluding pride. A man obsessed with thoughts of what he thinks he needs to be done, intensely greedy, and delighting in sense enjoyment, is suddenly confronted by you, who are ever alert. Like a hungry snake licking its fangs before a mouse, you appear before him as death. That body that at first rides high on fierce elephants and chariots adorned with gold, is known by the name King, is later by your invincible power of time called feces, worms, or ashes. Having conquered the entire circle of directions and being thus free of conflict, a man sits on a splendid throne, receiving praise from leaders who were once his equals. But when he enters the woman's chambers, where sex pleasure is found, he is led around like a pet animal, O Lord. A king who desires even greater power than he already has, strictly performs his duties, carefully practicing austerity and foregoing sense enjoyment, but he whose urges are so rampant, thinking, I am independent and supreme, cannot attain happiness. When the material life of a wandering soul has ceased, O Achyuta, he may attain the association of your devotees. And when he associates with them, there awakens in him devotion unto you, who are the goal of the devotees and the Lord of all causes and their effects. My Lord, I think you have shown me mercy, since my attachment to my kingdom has spontaneously ceased. Such freedom is prayed for by saintly rulers of vast empires who desire to enter the forest for a life of solitude. O all-powerful one, I desire no other boon than service at your lotus feet. Because remember that he's responding to the question. Please take benedictions. Anything you want, your desires will be fulfilled. What are they? Blank check. So they're no longer those other ones. And there's only this one. Oh Hari, what enlightened person who worships you, the giver of liberation, would choose a boon that causes his own bondage? Therefore, I put aside all objects of material desire, which are bound to the modes of passion, ignorance, and goodness. I am approaching you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for shelter. You are not covered by mundane designations. Rather, you are the Supreme Absolute Truth, full in pure knowledge and transcendental to the material modes. He goes on. So what does Krishna say to that? This is one of those verses. This verse that we just recited is from that section of his prayers. And there is a detail. It's found in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22. This is Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami. It's a celebrated section, the prayers of one who has received the mercy of a devotee, to have the mercy of Krishna come into their life. The cause and effect are in reverse order. And it's a particular literary ornament. Alankara means a literary ornament. And sometimes when a consonant is repeated again and again and again in a line of poetry, that's a certain type of literary ornament, alliteration. Anyway, this is a type of literary ornament where something, for sake of emphasis, the cause and effect are reversed. For sake of emphasis. So listen with that understanding. He's so enthusiastic. And the way that Vyasadeva has composed this, or Shukadeva Goswami has narrated it, the order is reversed. When the material life of a wandering soul has ceased, but how does material life of a wandering soul cease? It comes from association of a sadhu. O Achyuta, he may attain the association of your devotees. And when he associates with them, there awakens in him devotion unto you. That part is the natural. So here's the explanation found in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's an apparent inversion of sequence. And it's an ornament or alankara for emphasis of how wonderful it is, the association of devotees. The association of Garga Muni was so wonderful that my bhakti awakened and I was always praying to you. May that day come when I will be able to see you. And now by your mercy you've come. And now my material desires are gone. The merciful association of the Lord's devotees makes possible our determination to become Krishna conscious. So the conclusion of this long chapter is Krishna responds, basically saying, I was just testing you. I knew what your response would be, but I wanted to examine. And this happens sometimes. It happens sometimes from very elevated persons. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Untitled Lila chapter 4, he's examining or testing Sanatana Goswami. He knows the heart of Sanatana Goswami, but he's examining the heart of Sanatana Goswami and amplifying by his own internal potency. He's amplifying the absolute, total dependence of Sanatana Goswami on Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And then he cures his disease, which was the source of that anxiety that he had. Not because he was afraid of illness, he was afraid of making offense. Anyway, in that same chapter, it's an important lesson, so I'll say it again. In that same chapter, where Sanatana Goswami comes to Jagannath Puri, it's 10 days after Rupa Goswami left Jagannath Puri. 10 days. And Rupa Goswami had come to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Puri with his brother, Anupam. Right? There was a third brother, Rupa, Sanatan, and Anupam. When Rupa Goswami was traveling to meet Lord Chaitanya along the river Ganges, Anupam died. So he gave that report to Lord Chaitanya when he came to Puri. And then Rupa Goswami stayed for 10 months. He left. 10 days later, Sanatana Goswami comes, and Lord Chaitanya gave him the bad news. Your brother, Anupam, has left this world. And then Sanatana Goswami reveals that Rupa and I tested him. Tested him in the sense that he was a Ram Bhakta. Anupam was a Ram Bhakta. And they were trying to encourage him, Anupam, to become a Krishna Bhakta. They tested him, but he couldn't give up. He couldn't give up. And they praised him. Just see, you're such an ardent Ram Bhakta. And they were respecting his Ram Bhakti while he was respecting their Krishna Bhakti. And there wasn't like a competition or rivalry or something like that. But they examined him. And Lord Chaitanya examined Sanatana Goswami. And here Krishna is examining Mucukunda. It happens. Examining doesn't mean like I want to find out where you're at. We discussed that a little bit today when Nathji was examining Prabhupada. Some of you may know that Your Ever Well-Wisher was a documentary about Prabhupada that Yadubar had made some years ago. And in that there's this interview with Sri Nathji. Sri Nathji was like, he's now deceased, but he was a, very successful businessman. And when he met Prabhupada, he examined him, like he said in this interview. But as a businessman, it's our tendency to want to see where's the weakness of somebody. So I wanted to see, maybe he's greedy, maybe he wants money, maybe this, maybe that. And I tested him every which way, and I found him to be a perfect person. He had no weakness. So Krishna is seeing does Mucukunda have a weakness? But Krishna knew. So let's hear what Krishna says. It's really, really nice. If you have the opportunity to meet Krishna, it'd be nice if you can be appreciated by Krishna like this. Oh, Emperor, great ruler, your mind is pure and potent. Though I enticed you with benedictions, your mind was not overcome by material desires. Understand that I enticed you with benedictions just to prove that you would not be deceived. Prahlad, same. Nishringa Chaturdasi is coming. The intelligence of my unalloyed devotees is never diverted by material blessings. The minds of non-devotees who engage in such practices as pranayam are not fully cleansed of material desires. Thus, O king, material desires are again seen to arise in their minds. Wander this, so here's this parting words. Wander this earth at will, with your mind fixed on me. May you always possess such unfailing devotion for me. Because you followed the principles of a Kshatriya, you killed living beings while hunting and performing other duties. You must vanquish the sins thus incurred by carefully executing penances while remaining surrendered to me. O king, in your very next life, you'll become an excellent Brahmana, the greatest well-wisher of all creatures, and certainly will come to me. And that's the end of the chapter. Thank you for finding the book somehow. So in life, there's tests. Now, if you're not a devotee, there's also tests, but the purpose is different and the outcome is different. And for the devotee, Krishna's in examining. He tested the gopis, didn't he? He left the gopis. And then he hid behind trees to see what were they going to do. I mean, of course, he's omniscient, but it was a pastime. And later, he tested Rukmini. I think I'm not qualified. You made a mistake. You shouldn't have married me. And you're better off having a more qualified person than me. Look, I'm just a village person. And she fainted. And he said, oh, your love is so pure. He wanted to experience that exchange with her. There's this saying that the Krishna will never put us into a difficulty beyond which we can handle. Now, it may be a stretch for us to handle, but the understanding is Krishna is there. The support of Krishna is there. It's right in the story of Bali Maharaj. He was put in a very severe situation. Prabhupada's comment is, Krishna may do like that, put you in a difficult situation or test. Do you have material shelters or only spiritual shelter? And if it's in an extreme situation, Krishna will give you all the strength. He'll make the test, but also give all the strength and all the intelligence to meet the test. Like what Prabhupada did. Of course, it takes very strong devotion. But when there's strong devotion, and you want it to become stronger, then there may be some purification, some circumstance that's a little uncomfortable, or really uncomfortable. It happens. It happens. It doesn't mean, like Prabhupada, he was gored by a cow. Just after he had taken sannyas, one of the first things that happened, the horns of a cow pierced his body. It was a difficulty. He had no assistant, someone to take care of him. So pure devotee, put into difficulty, etc., etc., etc. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that when that shelter, intensified shelter is taken in Krishna, Krishna gives one intelligence. How to handle the situation, what the next move should be. His support is there. One feels that connection with Krishna, that's what we want. It doesn't have to be an ordeal type of connection, but any kind of connection. So Mucukunda was setting a nice example for us. The Supreme Lord said, O Emperor, great ruler, your mind is pure and potent. We read this. Though I enticed you with benedictions, your mind was not overcome by material desires. Here's Krishna's testing Rukmini. Celebrated chapter that's coming up later in the 10th canto. Krishna in Dwarka. It's nice to talk about Krishna's pastimes. Like the world just stops and it's absorbing in thoughts of Krishna and his wonderful exchanges with his devotees. So let's see. Ramchandra, are you standing? Is there something you'd like me to do? Oh, he's going to pass the mic. If you have some comments or questions, you can please. We have a microphone over here too. It's on.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful class. Maharaj, do we know who Mucukunda was in his next life, where he became an
No,
accomplished?
I've searched.
Okay.
A Brahmana, a pure Brahmana. Doesn't give his name, doesn't give what he did. Like I said, that's another chapter that's not published in the 18,000 verses of the Bhagavatam.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Maharaj, in our professional lives and even just what we do on a daily basis, we have a really big doership mentality, or I have a really big doership mentality. I think it just comes in very like nonchalantly, like you don't even think about it. You're always in like I'm doing that, and I don't do it like the world. And Maharaj, and sometimes when we're in that mood, Krishna really you really have the power. The one who's helping you do all of this. So how do we intentionally or like explicitly cultivate the dependence of Krishna part while being independently thoughtful, like Srila Prabhupada said?
She knows the answer. My answer for how-to questions is following the footsteps of Jayadvaita Swami. 2 words. Sadhu Sangha. I mean, I was saying that, then I heard he was saying that, so I think I'm happy to follow in his footsteps. You associate with persons who have this, this verse that was quoted from Chaitanya Charitamrita, association with advanced devotees. Then association with advanced devotees means, here's an example of what it means to be acting in the world, but without false ego. And it's not only I can read about it in a textbook, but I can see it. I can see it. Here it is, live. And then from the mouth of such a person comes the same messages that I read about or hear about here and there and think about here and there. But then when it comes from the mouth of such persons, it carries me to that, beyond the limitations of my false ego, limiting influences. In short, Bhakti has the power to dissolve false ego, and there isn't something else. This is Kapila's teaching. Bhakti has the power to dissolve false ego, and there isn't something else. So how do you get Bhakti? By associating with Bhaktas and doing Bhakti activities in their association. And does it take time? Yes. Why does it take time? Because we're attached. Does it have to take time? No. But it does. Because we're attached. So let go. Well, it's not so easy to let go. I mean, I can let go of some things, but some other things I hold on to. Okay? You hold on to some things and then you suffer, right? So you're attached to suffering, right? No, I'm not attached to suffering, but I'm attached to things. The joying spirit. I'm attached to it, and they have my favorite enjoyments. And so, it takes some time. Follow the bhakti process nicely, starting with hearing and chanting with great attention, with faith in that sound vibration, in the association of sadhus, and Bhakti will become stronger, and as Bhakti becomes stronger, false ego becomes weakened. Read Madhurya Kandamani chapter 8, and you'll find same thing described there. Ramchandra, you had something.
Prabhupada said about preaching, and everybody went off the roof and excited. And
make others fortunate, was his words.
Right.
I've come to make you fortunate. Now you go forward and make others fortunate.
And everybody got so excited. So, Why isn't there the same? How can you get the same kind of enthusiasm? The spiritual master says, "Go ahead now, do this."
Well, there are persons, younger generation persons, that have that enthusiasm. And there's some that don't. And some that are, they're comfortable. So it requires the understanding. I'd like to reply by saying, we respect anyone who's carrying bhakti. Anyone. We respect souls that are in material bodies that aren't even in human form. We respect life. So this is Sanatana Goswami's teaching. Then you go up the ladder. Then there's living entities in a human form. There's living entities in the human form that this and that become Vaishnavas. And then there's Vaishnavas that go further and further. So we have special reverence for those very elevated Vaishnavas. And we have the opportunity, honestly, we have the same opportunity by reading Prabhupada's books and hearing his recorded. It's the same thing. Same thing. It's his association. So what's is our receiver on or mixed? So we seek out advanced association. And when if you have that desire to make spiritual progress. Now, something happens in spiritual life. We start with a very sincere, strong desire, and we advance rapidly. And then as we advance rapidly, commonly, what will happen is that, using Bhaktivinoda Thakur's words, that enthusiasm becomes cold, or we become complacent. My unhappiness has diminished. The 4 kinds of pious people, those wants have now been fulfilled, and it's see you later, Krishna. Thank you very much. I'm very busy now being successful. Until that, so the unsteadiness of bhakti is part of our experience, and recognizing that and reading about it, seek the association of those who are very advanced. And there are some very advanced, younger generation, very advanced persons. They may not have a title or bells and whistles, but they're very advanced persons. We seek their association wherever, and serve them. And I'll just a little sharing with you and with everybody. For about 6 months, there was something that started the ball rolling, but I became very involved in the lives of the 6 Goswamis. And at least 3 times, to 3 different audiences, one including the devotees in China, I went through like at least a 30-hour each time, in-depth appreciation of the lives of the 6 Goswamis. And I can tell you, that had a very strong impact on me, spiritualizing, revitalizing, rejuvenating, invigorating my sense of being close to Lord Chaitanya, because they're the doorway to get Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And our whole life as Vaishnavas is looking up to predecessor acharyas. We find it in the song, the writings, etc. They're all doing that. Appealing for the mercy, even with contemporaries or generations before them. The opportunity is there. When there is opportunity for someone who's available to us by physical proximity, and we can directly be in their association and service, that's wonderful. But then the same invigoration is certainly possible this other way, through sound, and becoming intimately connected with those personalities. Does somebody know how to tell children to go to a different place nicely and is that all right? Yes, there's a hand up front here. Yeah, I see your hand, but he's going to bring you the microphone.
The Maharaj Mucukunda,
Mucukunda.
yes, in his prayers in Lord Krishna, he says, Lord Krishna, he addresses Lord Krishna as Narayan. You are the
Yes.
personal.
Yes, he
so
did.
in Hare Krishnas, we see Krishna is the supreme personality,
Correct.
and all other avatars comes from the Krishna.
Yeah.
So how come he says
Why not?
Narayan?
Because
Krishna himself was there.
Yes, because Krishna is the source of everything, and Narayan is not different than Krishna, so he's Narayan. He's not wrong. Here, Krishna, the paintings show, not this one, here it shows Krishna with 2 arms, but the paintings show him with 4 arms, with the symbols of Vishnu, or the symbols of Narayan in his hands. He's Narayan. Lord Brahma, in Canto 10, Chapter 14, also addresses Krishna as Narayan. Because he is. Because he's the source of Narayan. And it's really nice. You can read in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna doesn't say it in the Bhagavatam, but Krishna's consideration is, Lord Brahma, please consider what you're saying. I'm just a little boy. And you're the original personality in the universe. And you're calling me your father. I'm a little boy. I'm 7 years old. Actually, at this time, he was 5 years old. 5 years old. I'm your father? Brahma, consider. Then Brahma says, yes, you're my father. Here's why. Because you're Narayana. And Narayana is my father. Narayana, one of the applications of the name Narayana is Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And it said, so you can read in Chaitanya, if you like the philosophy, it's very sweetly expressed by Krishnadas Kaviraj in 3 different ways, in compelling different arguments. Brahma says, yes, you are Narayan. You are my father. Although you're taking the feature of a 5-year-old boy. So it's philosophically correct. It's not incorrect. His feature is he's Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva. But another name is Krishna. He's all the time. Another name is Narayana. He's the shelter of all living beings. That's one of the meanings of Narayana. Ayana. Narayana. He's the shelter of all living beings. He's Narayana. But you like, it's juicy. It's a joyful, juicy exchange between Brahma and Krishna, found in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where he gives his 3 compelling reasons why Krishna is Narayan, my father. Nice. I invite you, please read it. Anyone else? Okay, I think we'll end with this. You have something? Yeah, okay.
Maharaj, I think I asked this question like 5 years ago or so, but it's about faith, Maharaj. It's just like, especially if you're a little bit older in age and you've seen the material world, you see that there's so many, religious groups and spiritual groups, and it's very natural to have confusion when you like stumble upon ISKCON and you're like, okay, is this just, another one of those? So when you first start practicing bhakti, how do you sort of tell yourself that, or how do you feel that this is it?
I'll comment. Many people join the Hare Krishna movement with their mind, and not necessarily with understanding why they're doing what they're doing. And when that happens, it's the soft and pliable faith situation. Something else comes along, and something else comes along, and they're scratching their head. A better method is a big factor in someone's becoming connected with the process of bhakti is sadhu sangha. And it's not just the teaching, because they may not have thoroughly read Bhagavad Gita yet. It's the character and quality of the Vaishnav achar, Vaishnav behavior, Vaishnav quality. And that it's consistent. It's a fact. I mean, we may like prasadam and things, like some other things, but it's the sadhu sangha that makes the difference, and then gradually becoming more familiar through the sadhu sangha method with what the teachings actually are. And then that initial faith can become more firm and realized. I mean, the question you're asking is I know a devotee, Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj, who's writing a book on this topic. I mean, so it's a big topic. And at different stages, how does faith grow? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote another book about it, Madhurya Kandamani, the stages of bhakti, and how does it grow. But in the initial phases, what is our responsibility when we're meeting new people? It's exemplify Vaishnava quality. And that doesn't solidify the person in bhakti practice, but be a perambulatory Bhagavad Gita. Be a walking example of what Krishna's teaching in Bhagavad Gita is. In terms of, your speech, and in terms of your, how you conduct yourself. Strive to be of Vaishnava character. And then, as time passes, such a person, us or others, will naturally, carefully, want to help the person understand XYZ. But not in a dogmatic way, in a very reasonable way. So people can then understand XYZ. And then they can start to have a foundation that's strong. And then when they come across something that's different than XYZ, at least they can say, well, I have XYZ. I'll give a little example and it can end. A few years ago, about 53 years ago, I was a college student. And I was a product of the counterculture. I mean, sociologically speaking, I was in a defiant spirit. Kind of. Not completely, but... So I started reading Prabhupada's books. But I was also reading other books. Many other books. And I was gathering some questions. And there was one person who I wanted to go ask. I had a whole sheet of paper with many questions. And this devotee, I won't mention his name, but he is a very nice devotee. I went like several hours out of my way to go visit this devotee. And I went through the questions one by one by one. But I had the stump the Swami question. And at the very end. And the stump the Swami question at the very end was, I was reading a Sufi book. And in the Sufi book, it gives a very clear description of Krishna's form. So my question is, why this, why that, why not that instead of this? How is it that they were able to understand Krishna's form and put it in this book? And he was thoughtful, and he gave a very honest answer. He said, I can't say how that was possible, but here's what I can say. I have all faith in Srila Prabhupada, and by Srila Prabhupada's association and following his teachings, I'll come to know more about Krishna than any other way. And my pride was way up here, and I felt like it just got punctured. I wanted to crawl under a rug somewhere and just be ashamed of that, the challenging. It wasn't so much in a challenging spirit, but that was what was going on. Why this instead of that? So his character was what defeated me, or convinced me, compelled me to carry forward, because I didn't have doubt in what Prabhupada was doing. And saying, there are things that Prabhupada said that was certainly challenging to my scientific mind, but that was okay. That's fine. Challenges are good. It was the compelling was so if such a beginning person can contact a sadhu who has genuine qualities, not the cosmetic kind, but the genuine kind, that's powerful. And stay in that, keep seeking out that association, that particular person or persons who have that kind of quality and character. Learn more deeply about, what the XYZ, the foundation of bhakti life. And you become strong. The false ego will be dissipated, and the spiritual sense of who you are becomes very strong, unshakable eventually. Okay, thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai.
So let's please be seated for a couple of minutes. So let's thank Maharaj with a loud Haribol. Wonderful class. So if you notice today, Maharaj asked for a Bhagavatam, and he opened the 10th canto by his own hands. So I was thinking, those who don't have a Bhagavatam set, I would like to take this set specially, inaugurated by Maharaj, and give it as a gift to somebody. There's only one set. You can raise your hand.